Alrighty.
Hey, Jody.
Okay.
Hi, sweetie.
It's about
Hi.
So sorry. So sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm good. You holding up okay?
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh no, you would not have met Amy.
Yes, I would.
Well, at Sam's funeral.
Well,
She was not. She was driving.
Sorry. Sorry. I wasn't on the phone. I know. Hi,
Okay, well, I wasn't sure what.
And you are going to play.
I am going to play, yes.
Do you need any like tune time or?
Well,
I think.
when is the plan?
Well, I think after I speak, I'm going to call on Steve, and then Jessica, and then I think Jackie, and then you.
Okay,
And then
so
we'll
after that.
close the service. Okay.
Well, I'm maybe.
Hi, Mom. I can't hear you. Oh,
Okay, can you hear me now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Are you seeing anything, Rana?
yeah, in the corner.
In the corner.
It was my left corner, but they turned it off.
Oh, there. Yeah. I see you now.
There you are.
Can people hear us on Zoom? This is at the service. Can people hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to ask everyone in approximately 3 minutes to mute your phones so there's no background. And you can see the two gentlemen standing at the podium. Can someone acknowledge that you see the two people standing at the podium?
Yes, I can see them.
Lots of other places, and they always have
Joanne sent me a picture. You guys want to go? Really?
I need you. You can read this. What does it say? Oh, that's
Sharon.
just a name.
Sharon.
We're recording.
Very small group.
Where does it?
Josh was telling me about that yesterday.
Roman's been playing and Josh has been playing. Your powers up. just told Dan about his. Yeah, mine is the same one. Oh, that's no problem. That's fine. You'll hear that fine.
Do you want to see that if it is the court?
Oh, I've been here. I took a picture of
Put
what's
it in
happening.
front. You want to sit in front?
Yes.
Not left. I can put down here. Because you're a child, you come from the heart. Great.
Hey, friends, if you want to sit next to somebody who you reside with and you want to pull your chairs closer, then
Maybe I
that's
have
fine.
my.
We'll just make your different household and your distance because of that. But if you're like majority with somebody who you spend all your time with at home, like that, Abby
It sounds like Jody.
prime example of what I'm saying. But the center row, did that make any difference? No, you can move the chair up. That's sure. You can move the chair up. So if anybody wants to sit next to a spouse or something, just, All right.
Are we allowed?
Cottage card.
We're okay to sit up here, right?
And I'll do three in just a second. No, we can, yeah. You want to come up here, Steve?
I'll stay back there.
Right, and this chair doesn't have to be right here. Does anybody need another chair next to something? Or
Well, I kind of like to sit next to her.
you should. You can pull those up a little. That's
Give
fine.
you a cottage.
Everybody has
So
oh,
we're
yeah,
together.
that's you.
Larry, cottage card.
All right, so for one moment, can I have Steve, David,
Thank you.
Alan?
Okay, we're gonna ask people to mute their cameras or phones now.
Oh, I pressed something. Now you're
All right.
You know what the password is for this?
Is there a password?
Yes.
No, just said it first.
It was sent to everyone. It's on the link.
But then she said you got in though. Okay, it's on the link. Apparently
You
not.
just go to the link. You don't need a password. It's already in there.
Okay.
We need the Yeah, but this is different.
All right.
It's her husband trying to get on.
Okay.
If you're ready.
All right, let me just make sure. Abby, is your dad on, honey? All right, we may have to resend him the link.
That's another way this way.
Is everyone okay? Does anybody need water?
play. I've never tried playing with my mask on. I don't blow into the instrument, so.
You're like 10 feet away. No, I'm going to take the mask off when I speak.
What's that?
I'm going to take the mask off when I speak, I believe.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
friends, we have everybody that we think
When I
needs to
play,
be
I
on
can
this.
take my mask off.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I can take the mask off when I speak.
Mizmor David, Adonai Roi, Lo Echsar. Binot Shayar B'Tzeim Yameh Menuchot Yanachaleni. Nafshi Shovei. Yanacheni V'Magle Tzadek L'Ma'an Shemo. Gam Ki Helech B'Getzal Mavetz. Lo ira ki ata imaldi shiftecha mishantecha hema yenachani taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzurirai dishanta v'shemen roshi Kosiri vaya, achto v'chased yudifuni, koya mechayai, v'shaviti, b'veit Adonai, le'orach yami. Friends, I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. As we seek comfort, as we seek peace, we often turn to the psalmist. And so I invite you to recite these words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. And when we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, as we remember Naomi Ross. To her children, to Alan and Steve, and Jody and David, also to Mike and Amy, to her grandchildren, Aaron and Christopher, Daniel, Jessica and Matt, Jamie and Tessa, Jordan, Stephen, Sita and Ahmad, to her great-grandchildren, to Abby, Brennan, Audrey, Xander, Maeve, and Morrison, to all the members of the family who are here in person today, and to so many who are joining us through technology, so many dear members of the family and wonderful friends. We are here together, our hearts joined together today, as we remember, but also celebrate the life of your beloved Naomi. Our sages, in their wisdom, have taught us that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, and from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, and from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. In just 10 days from now, Naomi Schwartz Ross would have celebrated her 92nd birthday. Her journey of over 91 years began in Brooklyn, New York. Naomi was born on August 28, 1928, to her parents Anna and Perry Schwartz. While the family endured the struggles of this era, Naomi and her younger brother Marshall, of blessed memory, grew up in a warm and loving home in Cleveland, the city her family moved to when she was just a toddler. Growing up, Naomi was fiercely protective of her baby brother, and the close bonds that their youth enjoyed, these bonds never diminished. Marshall and Naomi grew even closer into their adult years, making sure to call each other every day. And her parents, these were hardworking people. Her father was a vaudeville performer. He was a skater and a comedian, and so the family described him as this vaudevillian skating comedian. But in order to provide for his family, he also works at Bailey's department store. As a girl and into her teens, her family shared stories that their mom, their grandmother, was quite a bit of a tomboy, climbing trees and playing in a rough and adventurous way. And she had her share of bruises and broken bones. Naomi, you should know, was also a very proud lefty. She was left-handed, and over the years she would tell her children stories of how the left-handed kids would have to sit in the back row in the classroom. Now, in her later teens, Naomi also began to work at Bailey's department store where her father worked. And she did this to help out the family. These were the Depression years, and Naomi, at an early age, understood the importance of family. She was definitely proud of many things, not just her left-handedness. She was also proud of her New York roots. And while her father was a huge Cleveland Indians fan, Naomi always took great pride in cheering for the Yankees. She lived in Brooklyn until her second or third birthday, but she always considered herself a New Yorker. The story of Naomi and Sam, as told by Naomi back in March of 2015. At the time of Sam's passing, these are the words that Naomi shared with me, and I have the privilege, albeit a sad one, to share these words with you today. Naomi described the following story. She said, "It was New Year's Eve, 1949, and here she was, a lovely, young, beautiful woman. She was invited to her friend's home to celebrate New Year's. Naomi was with her date, not Sam. She was with her date, and then she saw Sam Ross enter into the party with his date. Naomi's reaction was, and I'm quoting her now, "Wow, I'd love to meet him." When I asked Naomi back in 2015 why she reacted this way, she said, "He was gorgeous." Naomi was not introduced to Sam on that New Year's Eve, but she observed that Sam and his date stayed at the New Year's Eve party for only 30 minutes. They spent the entire time necking in the corner. Abby, do you know what necking is? Mom will tell you later. It was a few months later. The winter had ended. It was in the springtime, and Naomi went to a dance with a girlfriend, and it was at this dance where she once again saw Sam Ross, and he was there with a buddy. They met that night. Naomi shared with me that they chatted. He asked her to dance, and then Sam drove Naomi home that evening. And very simply put, Naomi said, that was it. That was it. Naomi and Sam saw each other that evening and almost every evening after for 2 years. She loved being with Sam, and she especially loved when he would pick her up in his convertible, that red convertible. They married on August 5th, 1951, and in their years together, they had many shared passions. They loved going to the beach. They loved watching movies and going to the theater and dining out. They enjoyed trips to the Nevele and the Catskills, visits to Toronto, of course, visits back to Brooklyn, New York, and to San Francisco and Seattle. They loved playing pinochle with their weekly group of card-playing friends. Naomi simply said to me on that day, so many years ago, he was a great guy. Everyone loved him. He was my partner and my love. And so I say to Naomi and Sam's children, in your mom describing him as her partner, I remind you that in the Jewish wedding ceremony, when we come to the moment of the Sheva Brachot, the 7 wedding blessings, when the cup of wine is shared by bride and groom the second time, the bride and groom are described by the phrase Reim Ahuvim, and literally translated, this means loving partners. And I think this was what your mother was trying to tell me 5 years ago, that they were loving partners, married for 64 years, and a beautiful example to everyone who knew them. And then as Steve and Jody and Alan and David, as you entered into the world of Naomi and Sam, this gorgeous Ross family portrait kept growing, becoming larger and even more beautiful and full of so much love. David, from your earliest days of being a little boy in the grocery store with your mom, sitting in that grocery cart seat, her pushing you and stopping to get you samples of sliced bologna rolled up, whether it was those days or your teen years and your adult years, you always knew that she was a mom who was a good teacher. You told me that she taught you the good and the not so good qualities of having deep convictions. You also remarked to me, David, that even through her dementia, you thought it was really telling of the person, the neshama, the soul of your mom. Because even through her dementia, you could see the compassion that she still had for others, especially those who were what you might describe the underdogs, the other residents, those who were perhaps disfigured or had different physical or emotional challenges. She was kind to them. And she must have been kind to the staff at Menorah Park because they adored her, many of them crying when they heard of her passing. And Alan, you gave your mom a whole lot of nachas when you brought that violin home. Your mom loved music. Now, you told me she loved to sing, but all the children said she would sing with a beautiful warmth to her voice, but she just was not able to match pitch. So she had this love of music. And when you brought the violin home and you would practice, it didn't matter if it was a piece of classical music or a scale. It didn't matter if you played it perfectly or made mistakes on every note. She was wowed and would tell you how amazing you were. She looked for the right teacher, and she put a lot of time and effort in that. And she finally settled, maybe not settled, but she found you a teacher who was a violinist in the Cleveland Orchestra. She wanted the best for you. She loved to watch you and your siblings in their school activities, whether it was playing sports or performing. You described her as a mom who was involved. And Jody, many of us understand that the mother-daughter relationship is like no other on the planet. It's really quite unique. Your mom knew you. You said she could read you. She knew how to read you. She was in tune with your feelings and with your emotions, and you with hers as well. You credit her as the one instilling you with strong convictions, leading towards social justice and doing the right thing. And you remember her as a working mom. When you and your brothers were old enough, she went back to work at the May Company, the one in University Heights. She worked in the credit office. She also worked for a while in the Cleveland Heights University Heights school system as an aide. And probably her favorite job. You remember your mom worked a couple of years as a receptionist at a beauty salon. And this, I think, was a job she loved. You said she loved the people. She loved to talk with the clients. And not only was she working, but she was kibitzing, and she was enjoying people and enjoying life. And that's how your mom was with people, and that's how she was with the family. She enjoyed all of you. And Steve, I know we're going to hear from you in just a moment, so I will let you speak and say what you have in your heart. But you did remark that in these last several weeks, especially these last several months with COVID, that the Zooms and the FaceTime calls, I know Jody worked so hard to set many of these up, but these calls for you, Steve, were precious. You said you spoke with your mom more, maybe in the last 4 months, about more things in more detail than perhaps even in the last several years. And she had what you described as a great memory, even with the dementia. She could pull up details from the past, and this was awesome for you and for your siblings to see and to hear and to learn. You all said your mom had a great sense of humor, and that she was, I believe David said, generous with a laugh. She appreciated good humor, and we know this because she loved Carol Burnett. And whether you knew her as Grandma Omi or simply Grandma, you knew her as a hands-on grandmother. Now, Mike, you recalled a story that involved Jamie. There's a little bit of family folklore. So apparently, Naomi, along with Mike's mother, whose name was Barbie, the two grandmothers were babysitting, and there may have been some wine involved. And Jamie, who liked to find little nooks and crannies, Jamie, you crawled under the end table next to the couch and you fell asleep. And I'm not sure how many hours went by, but your grandmothers did not know where you were. For the grandchildren, some of you were fortunate to be counted among the, what we'll call in-town grandchildren. And for those of you who were the out-of-town grandchildren, the visits, multiple times a year, whether in town or whether visiting from out of town, these were great times for you, but especially for your grandmother. Great times that created the dearest and sweetest memories. And then in more recent years, the visits from her great-grandchildren. And I know, while we have one of her great-granddaughters here with us today, I know that the others are all watching us on Zoom. And we know that your visits with Grandma Omi were just the best. I think Maeve is the one who would say that when they went to visit Grandma, when she was great-grandma Omi, when she was at Menora Park, she would say something like, we're going to visit Grandma's mansion, great big house, her mansion. These are all sweet memories. Your great-grandmother loved music, and she loved the performers who would come to Menora Park to play the piano or serenade her. She would oftentimes just let her lungs loose and sing along with them. And she loved to read. She loved playing Maj with her girlfriends. And whether they were her Maj friends or her other girlfriends, she had a wonderful group of friends. She was a loving daughter and sister, a devoted wife and mother, an adoring grandmother and great-grandmother, and she was a trusted friend to so many. Our tradition teaches us that words which come from the heart go directly to the heart. And so today it's fitting that we have members of the family representing 3 generations who have words from their heart that they wish to share with us. And first I would like to call upon her son, Steve.
Thank you very much. I want to ask you in advance to please forgive me for any redundancy with the words so eloquently stated. Although they moved to Cleveland when Mom was a child and lived there the rest of her life, part of Brooklyn stayed with her. She took a great and frequent pride, as we all know, in saying that she was from Brooklyn and remained vocal about things like her support of the New York Yankees. We smirked often at her frequent references to Brooklyn, but only very recently, as Governor Andrew Cuomo has given proud and public meaning to the term New York tough, do I think I finally get it. Mom was indeed New York tough, even though she spent 85 years in Cleveland. And thank God she did, for it was here. She was here to meet Sam, my father, our father, her partner, and great love of her life. Her fire to his water made for a perfect match, for a love that sustained them for over 60 years. Mom was a deeply moral person, with strong convictions and opinions, particularly on behalf of justice and equality, and in defense of the less privileged. Remember Mom as a force of nature all of her life, an outspoken exemplar for social justice from my very earliest. After the ruckus was over, she walked back in, still red-faced with anger, and explained what had happened, using language I hadn't heard before. As Michelle Obama said last night, empathy is not just feeling, but doing. There was never any doubting what Mom thought of a subject, any subject, and she was a vocal anti-racist 50 years before I'd ever first heard the term. She felt, and felt strongly and with great passion and sincerity, for better, and as David pointed out, for worse. So when she was happy, she was prone to sing and sashay around the house. But then the great tragedies of injustice, like the murders of JFK and Martin Luther King, literally knocked her to the ground, to the floor, in the starkest memories of my childhood. She was a very social person, thriving on interactions with others and including her family, playing cards and pinochle and mahjong with a cluster of close friends every week for decades, the handful of colleagues and thousands of customers she interacted with at May Company, the children and staff at the school where she worked as an aide, the customers she chatted with at the hairdresser she worked at, and even the staff at Menorah, where she was indeed truly beloved. In my adolescence, as many of you know, she and I had some rough patches. As one strong will repeatedly met an equal and opposite reaction from another strong will. But we both outgrew them. And with the passing of time, I've increasingly come to appreciate her and what we've inherited and learned from her about character, integrity, equality, compassion, and most importantly, about love. hotel last minute. This week has been heartbreaking for us in so many ways. I know there is no way to prepare for such an event, but the reality that COVID was the cause made it doubly painful and, as we know, disorienting, as we were denied the simple honor of holding her hand in Mom's final days. But a wise friend of mine and Amy's, a woman who married us, reminded me that the compromised blessing of having to rely on a video connection does not undermine the love that is expressed at such times. It was such a comfort and a blessing that all of us were able to reach out to express our love and say goodbye, knowing that Mom was experiencing such competent and compassionate medical care as she moved on from this life. I know that she knew that she was loved. And the fact that she was able to say that through her mask to some of us one more time, as she did so readily all her life, well, that felt truly like a mother's blessing. That same wise friend told me that she was praying that I would feel an expanding sense of peace and gratitude for Naomi's life, for Mom's life. I'm starting to feel that gratitude for Mom's life and know that sense of peace will expand in time, displacing the sorrow that is so present today. Today, I remember these words by Khalil Gibran, the author of The Prophet, which give comfort to me in our sorrow. As he wrote, "When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." We love you, Mom. Go in peace. Give our love to Marshall and to Sam.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Jessica. It's Kathy. Hi. Friends, Jessica, Naomi's granddaughter, who is in California, is here on the phone, on speakerphone. She has words from her heart she wants to share with everyone. Let's turn the sound. Wait 1 second, Jessica. We're going to just turn the sound up. And it's up all the way. Okay, Jessica.
Thank you, Kathy. Good morning. As most of you know, my name is Jessica McTighe, and I am Naomi's oldest granddaughter. I so wish I could be with my family today, but I'm grateful for this technology that allows me to still be connected while across the country. The last week has been a whirlwind, and I don't think we fully processed this profound loss of our matriarch. Waves seem to continue in a sort of rhythm right now as my mind replays the many personal memories I have of my grandma Naomi. My brother Jamie and I were so very lucky to grow up only a few minutes away from our grandparents, and I can honestly say we don't have many childhood memories without her in them, because that's the type of grandma she was. She attended every school or sporting event we had. She'd bring turkey and rice casserole over to our house in Cleveland Heights just to help out. She always had a stick of gum in her giant purse that she'd sneak our way. And Jamie and I would race in the side door of her house straight to the kitchen to grab pinwheel desserts from the glass candy jar that she kept stocked just for us. I secretly used to love when I get sick because it meant Grandma would show up in the morning and we'd cuddle on the couch together watching soap operas and eating raisin toast with butter all day long. She was habitual in her choice of restaurants, yet Burger King was high on the list. And no matter what, her meal needed to come with extra onions. I know I speak for all her grandchildren when I say that she had an ability to make every one of us feel special and loved and like we were the most important thing to her in that moment that we were together. She was an eternal optimist when it came to her belief in all of us, and I've now come to realize she was almost memories that she laid the foundation for. Remembering Naomi will be easy. I'll hear her infectious laughter in my ears forever, but missing her will never end. On Friday evening, when I told my 6-year-old daughter Maeve that her great-grandma had passed away, she buried her head in my chest and sobbed, soaking my shirt, unable to stop her tears. I admit I was caught off guard by her strong reaction at first because she's so young and I wasn't sure how much she remembered. But then I realized it was the permanence of it all that my daughter was grieving. She kept repeating, I won't ever see her again in this body. I wish we had one more chance. It's so simply true. Selfishly, I know we all wish we had one more chance. But then we beg for one more after that for eternity. Maeve finally smiled when I explained that she was now going to be her guardian angel and that she would still be near us in our hearts. And with the innocence of a child, she said, don't worry, Mommy. Grandma will come visit us in a new body. She'll be a beautiful butterfly, and when we see her, we'll just know. Truth or not, I, for one, know that I'll be looking. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We'd also like to hear from her great-granddaughter, Abby.
Abby, you can take your mask off.
Every morning when I go downstairs, I see the picture of great grandma, and it makes me happy. I remember all the times we visited and all the fun we had with her at her apartment. That's where my brother Brennan took his first steps, and the fun times we had visiting her at the nursing home. She was always smiling and laughing and would give us hugs and kisses until she loved us. Brennan, Audrey, and I wanted to say that we love you and we will never forget you or the good times we had. I know that even though you're not here right now, you will always be with me in my heart. I love you, Grandma.
Thank you, Abby. That's so beautiful. And one more expression of beauty and love. We ask Alan to share music, the music that Naomi loves so much. Thank you, Alan. Friends, I invite you, as you are able, to please rise as we continue our service with the rites of burial. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, creator of the universe, the righteous judge. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, God has taken away. Still, we bless the name of God. Vayoshav hafar al ha'aretz k'shahaya v'haruach tashuv el Elohim asher netana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns unto God who gave it. May the soul of Naomi Schwartz-Ross be bound up in the bond of life eternal, and send comfort, God, to those who mourn, and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. And to this we say, Amen. El Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Omsim Ruchanechana Tachat Kanfei Hashchina V'malot Kedoshim Utorim Kizohar Arakiamas Yiri Et Nishmat Yakirenu Shahalacha La'olama Began Eden Techem Minuchata Anna B'harachani Nastirecha B'seter Knafach L'olamim Utzuror Vitzroracha Yemet Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach V'shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Naomi Ross, who has gone to her eternal home. God of mercy, we beseech you to remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that Naomi performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. God is her portion. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We turn now to the words of our Kaddish. Following these words, those who are here in person at the gravesite will have an opportunity to place earth on the casket. This tradition, this mitzvah, this commandment of burying our loved ones with our own hands reminds us that as we come into this world with loving hands to guide and care for us, we should not exit this world in the hands of strangers. And so I invite all of you who are present to partake and do this on behalf of yourself. And if there's a loved one who you know is not physically present with us, if you would like to place earth on the casket on their behalf as well, we will do that as we conclude the recitation of the Kaddish. We join together as we say, Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'vyomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kari v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dekudisha B'reichu Le'elam mim kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata Damiran v'yalma v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shalom Arava min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mromav Huya Aseh Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. As God, the one who makes peace in a high place, sends peace to us, may God also continue to send peace to the mourners, to Israel and to all humankind. And to this we say, Amen. Friends, this concludes our service. I invite those who wish to place earth on the casket to do so at this time.
Oh, that was mine. That's
People want to step here, please.
What piece was that again? I know the piece
that was the Adagio by Samuel Barber.
Barbara. gorgeous.
Thank you for
Is
saying
it
that. It was
normally
no
played as a
problem.
quartet?
Yeah, it's written as a string quartet. Yeah. It's been arranged in many other ways. My phone was blowing while I was playing too, so I'm not surprised the
There's
music
a lot
was.
of wind going on. There was one point where I thought I better rescue him.
Yes, that was good. It was gonna
Poor
fall.
guy.
It would have fallen
He's trying to
out.
hold, he's playing the violin, he's holding the music with the top of the violin. Anyhow, everybody's welcome. Tell your daughter I appreciate what she said. We'll give you readings
This ends our Zoom broadcast.
4 weeks at the temple in our Friday night service. And we will